All right. So if I'm as sane as I think I might be, we're doing the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. It's Tuesday. I feel like after this last week, I kind of have to run all this stuff out to verify. It's Tuesday. We're doing class. We're starting now. And we're on the chapter Visit to the Sinti Brahmo Samaj. I've now switched to a hard copy book since my PDF was mysteriously missing about 2 pages, and I don't trust it anymore. So now we are chapter 32, page 635. And Vijay is asking Ramakrishna a question about what is left when you renounce adharma and dharma. And of course, that means, that means sin and righteousness, or right living and not so right living, or helpful living, help living that will take you toward God, or living that will take you into ignorance. And when you renounce both of those, because there comes a point in our spiritual practice where they merge, really, because we come to realize that if everything is God and the nature of the universe is Satchid Ananda, then even the bad stuff that's happening to you is motivated by love and has lessons in it. And so all of it is still designed to bring you to your realization. And so in that sense, you could say that there is no such thing as right and wrong. But until that point, none of us should be saying, "Oh, there is no right and wrong." I'll just be. That's a God realization point, just about. And so Vijay is asking, what happens when you get to that point? He says, "What remains?" Let me let Stephen in here real quick. He says, "What remains when you renounce them both?" And Ramakrishna says the most beautiful thing here. He says, "Pure love of God," right? And that becomes the reason that there is no dharma or adharma, because it is the love of God that is the motivating factor in the universe. And so at that point, there is just that pure love of God. The master goes on, he says, "I pray to the Divine Mother, O Mother, here, take your dharma and take your adharma. Give me pure love for you. Take your virtue. Here, take your vice and give me pure love for you. Here, take your knowledge, take your ignorance and give me pure love for you. You see, I didn't even ask for knowledge or public recognition. When one renounces both dharma and adharma, there remains only pure love of God, love that is stainless, love that is motiveless, and that one feels only for the sake of love." A Brahmo devotee asks, "Is God different from his Shakti?" So his question is, God different from this creation, from the creation, is what he's asking there. And the master says, well, after attaining perfect knowledge, one realizes that they are not different, right? That God in his absolute form, right, the absolute unchanging, and this world of constant unrepeating change is one way of describing it, or God, the absolute unchanging, and then the power of God, the manifesting power of God, which is the universe, or they call it Shiva and Shakti in that way, or the divine feminine and the divine masculine. The divine masculine is the absolute unchanging, and the divine feminine is this manifested world. And so he says we see that they are not different after attaining perfect knowledge. They are the same, like the gem and its brilliance. Thinking of the gem, one cannot but think of its brilliance. Again, they are like milk and its whiteness. Thinking of one, you must also think of the other. But you cannot realize this non-duality before the attainment of perfect knowledge, right? Attaining perfect knowledge, one goes into samadhi, beyond the 24 cosmic principles. Therefore, the principle of I does not exist in that stage, right? So as soon as you stop referring to yourself as I, then you are approaching that stage, where adharma and dharma are one and the same, or where God and his power are one and the same, or this manifested universe and the divine principle are one and the same. So the principle of I does not exist in that stage. A man cannot describe in words what he feels in samadhi. Right? So it can't even be spoken about. If Ramakrishna tried several times in this book here to tell us what samadhi is like, and just not able to. And I suspect the reason for that is because to put it into words means you have to be able to put it into your mind, right? And we know that the mind, the tools for the mind are time, space, causation. If you don't have that arrangement, the mind can't conceive of the thing. And they say in realization that that triad, time, space, causation, or subject, object, verb, or past, present, future, that in realization, the three merge into a singularity, right? And so you have a singularity. You cannot call, well, you can if you want, and nobody's going to do anything, but you're not correct if you call samadhi an experience, or nirvikalpa samadhi. Let's put it that way, because there are samadhis that you can experience because the I still remains to a certain degree. But in that highest realization, the realization of one without a second, there can be no description. It is not an experience because it is not in time, it is not in material, and it has no cause. It is the original cause, right? That one without a second is called that original cause. So, attaining perfect knowledge, one goes into samadhi. Beyond the 24 principles, the principle of I does not exist in that stage. A man cannot describe in words what he feels in samadhi. Coming down, he can give just a hint about it. I come down 100 cubits, as it were, when I say Om after samadhi. Now, that's an amazing thing. I mean, Om that was what was in the beginning. That which was with God and which was God is that Om, the word. And so here Ramakrishna is saying that from the heights of samadhi, of this nirvikalpa samadhi, he has to come down, as it were, 100 cubits, right? I can't remember how much a cubit is. I think it's like 16 inches or something. I don't know. Let's check in with Siri here. Hey Siri, how many inches are in a cubit? Yes, 18 inches. Okay. So one cubit is 18 inches. So what does that give us here? Did he say 10? 100 cubits. So that's 1,800 inches. Anyway. No, the point is that it's interesting because the name of God, you have to come down 1,800 inches from samadhi in order to just say the name of God, right? Because speaking the name of God is an act of creation, has to happen within Shakti, right? It can't happen within the absolute. And so he says, I come down 100 cubits, as it were, when I just say Om after samadhi. Brahman is beyond the injunctions of the Vedas and cannot be described. There neither I nor you exists. So right there, this is a very interesting thing he's saying here, that Brahman, God, the divine, is beyond the scriptures and is not beholden to them, right? The absolute freedom at in that existence, knowledge, bliss, of which we can say nothing more. As long as a man is conscious of I and you, and as long as he feels that it is he who prays or meditates, so long will he feel that God is listening to his prayer and that God is a person. Right? So this is the package that we are currently experiencing. Right? All of us both believe that we're separate from each other, that we have an I, and so we believe that God is a person. Now, this person, of course, in each one of us is probably going to be radically different, be a very interesting thing for everybody to describe God in non-scriptured words, shall we say. What is God really to you? For me, God goes in and out. He's sometimes deep within me and a wonderful sense of peace within. And then usually when I start my meditation or when I first sit down in Vespers, I see that God is still kind of off in that direction, always somehow off slightly to my right in the whatever happens to be up in that direction. And it's not until after I start my practice and get into a little bit that's the feeling of God, that the experience of God is within and not off somewhere to the right there like that. I've always been fascinated by that, because I always have had a definite sense of exactly where God is when he's separate from me. But in truth, he's deep within you. The kingdom is within, and that it is a delusion, the delusion of I, the delusion of being separate and apart from the whole, that makes us feel this way, that God is separate, that God is a person, and that he's just listening to my prayer, when in fact, he is your prayer. He is you. He is the whole experience of being. The thing that's not there is the ego that's claiming responsibility for everything. But really, in fact, there is no doer but the divine. So, so long as that, he will still feel that God is listening to his prayer and that God is a person. Then he must say, "O God, you are the master, and I am your servant. You are the whole, and I am a part of you. You are the mother, and I am your child." At that time, there exists a feeling of difference. I am one, and you are another. It is God himself who makes us feel this difference, and on account of this difference, one sees man and woman, light and darkness, and so on. As long as one is aware of this difference, one must accept Shakti, one must accept the created world, right? The personal God. It is God who has put I consciousness in us. You may reason 1,000 times, and still this I does not disappear. As long as I consciousness exists, God reveals himself to us as a person. Therefore, as long as a man is conscious of I and of differentiation, he cannot speak of the attributeless Brahman and must accept Brahman with attributes. This Brahman with attributes has been declared in the Vedas, the Puranas, and the Tantra to be Kali, the primal energy. Vijay. How, sir, can one have the vision of the primal energy and attain Brahmajnana, the knowledge of the attributeless Brahman? Master. Pray to him, pray to God, with a yearning heart, and weep. That will purify your heart. You see the reflection of the sun in the clear water. In the mirror of his I consciousness, the devotee sees the form of the primal energy, Brahman with attributes, but the mirror must be wiped clean. One does not see the right reflection if there is any dirt in the mirror, right? And what is the dirt in our mirror? The sense of me and mine. Selfishness is what lies at the center and is what blocks us from being able to see and fully enjoy God, right? And that whole purification process is that elimination of the I, right? And so, although Ramakrishna does say, it's almost impossible for an ordinary person, people like you and I, to completely efface the ego, to completely annihilate it out of ourselves. And so he doesn't really recommend that. That's not really the goal of bhakti or of a bhakta. He says that basically get your ego down as much as you can, as thin as you can, right? And then put it in relationship to God. So take the sense of I and put it directly into a relationship with God. And doing that is how you can move on to the next phase. Growing in the understanding that God is within, and having that experience to become aware of that. As long as a man must see the sun in the water of his eye consciousness and has no other means of seeing it, as long as he has no means of seeing the real sun except through its reflection, so long is the reflected sun alone 100% real to him, right? So as long as we have an ego, we don't have this direct experience of God. We can't see God. And so we see basically, well, let me say a weird thing that just popped into my head. We do see God, but we see God in bite-sized pieces, right? He presents a portion of himself in every moment to us. And so every moment we get a bite-sized image of God just through the senses, right? But our sense of I, combined with the senses that we're attached to, and the fact that we think we are the mind and we're using only sense data to find our truth, for that reason, we live behind the veil of ego. And this world doesn't really make sense to us because as an ego, as an individual, we can never have enough knowledge to ascertain the reality. We have to come to that point where we sink below the world of disparate knowledge, right, and look for that oneness in the silence of self. Or as I like to say, you need to dive to the bottom of the pool. All the noise is up where the waves are at the top of the pool, all the people swimming around and playing. And when you dive down to the bottom, it's peaceful and quiet, and you're away from everything. And so when we find that space within the shrine of the heart, where we're silent and away from everything, that's when we begin to really learn and see through our own awareness, right, and the grace of God, the presence, the reality of our nature. So, as long as the I is real, so long is the reflected sun real, and 100% real. That reflected sun is nothing but the primal energy. Okay. That reflected sun he's talking about is the world, the created universe, right? Your divine light of awareness is projecting through your egoism onto the surface of your mind, as it were, this universe, right? And as long as you believe in body mind as being yourself, you have a sense of I, a sense of a particular, you can't experience what is being projected. You can't see what is being projected because your ego has assigned its own narrative to every component of it, right? And so what do we have to do? We have to go deep inside, right? And go before the delusion, before mind, before body, before thought, right? Into the very center of ourself, into this shrine. And in there, we learn what we are, not by being told, but by being, right? And if we're being silent and the mind is quiet and the ego is diminished, we can know our nature. But it'll be a knowing that cannot be spoken for the reason that we mention again and again. It doesn't have that triad. He says, but if you seek Brahmajnana, the knowledge of Brahman, the knowledge of the attributeless Brahman, then proceed to the real sun through its reflection, right? So through its reflection. Pray to Brahman with attributes who listens to your prayers, and he himself will give you full knowledge of Brahman. For that which is Brahman with attributes is verily Brahman without attributes. That which is Brahman is verily Shakti. Right? It's a very interesting thing here because this our minds, we're always holding on to things. And so here he's telling us that, everybody wants to have this this Advaita experience. Oh, the one without the second, that's the real thing, right? And this falling in love with God, well, God isn't real. You've got to go to the point beyond God, right? Ramakrishna just right here just said, that the sun is real. It's 100% real. right? And so Brahman with attributes is as real as Brahman beyond attributes, right? So this universe, this manifestation is God, right? Is God, and God can be reached through it. But there is also God beyond it, God, the underlayment of the universe, the unmanifest absolute, right? And they are not different. They are one and the same. And there's no way to explain that. There's not much of a way to fit that in your mind in a logical progression. But this is the ultimate truth, right?
May I ask you a question here? And I don't want
Yes,
to
please.
take discussion in a different direction. But the analogy with the sun, does it have a significance that he says like sun, reflection of the sun, and say not something else? I mean, that he's talking about sun here.
I think so. I think the reflection of the sun is the only thing that gives us a view of creation.
Okay.
So it's not the reflection of anything else that we see.
So sun is the kind of the source of light, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
And,
sun in this adage, the sun is God, as it were. And oddly enough, that's the first thing we worshipped as God was fire, the sun. But yes, and the sun sustains us, right? I mean, that idea of sun and God equivalency can go quite deep. You know, that sun gives us life. If that sun disappeared, we would all die. There would be no life on earth. There would be no plants, no flowers, right? If the sun went away, there would be no planet. We would just drift off into space somewhere. We would no longer circle.
so the
And
idea is that through this reflected sun, we can go to the ultimate sun.
yes, through its reflection, God
Hmm.
can be reached. Yeah. So
Thank you.
that is to say that this universe, this manifested universe, is of the nature of God. And if you stay in awareness in it and treat it as God and live in it as God, then it will produce a saint out of you. It will lead you to freedom. That's its nature, right? If you look at yourself as God, meaning egoism, then it will lead you away from truth. It will lead you deeper into that idea of you being a body mind. But you will suffer because it won't be happy about leading you away. Right? And so the price will get higher and higher and higher the deeper into it you go, until at some point you realize, like that, the bird that was had the fish in its mouth, and when it caught that fish and was flying away, all these other birds were flying after it, trying to knock the fish out of its mouth. And then finally it drops it, right? And then all the other birds that were disturbing him go away, and he's at peace. And he's like, gosh, all I had to do was drop that fish and I'd be at peace. Right? And so drop this notion of being the doer and you'll be at peace. You'll see God rather quickly. The Divine Mother gives her devotee Brahmagyana too. Right? So this is the promise of Ramakrishna here, that the bhakta, you know, loving God, dancing with God, singing with God, reading about God, that is also a way of touching God. The Divine Mother gives her devotee Brahmagyana also, but a true lover of God generally does not seek the knowledge of Brahman. There's an interesting statement, right? A true lover of God generally does not seek the knowledge of Brahman because he enjoys God. He loves God deeply. God is love itself. And so it's very satisfying to sit in the presence of God. And so the bhakta, in a very unique way, has the option of staying at the feet of God forever, or in the embrace of God, if that makes it more, so you can identify more why you would want that. Right? That you and Krishna can lay in repose together forever, you know, putting flowers in each other's hair and generally enjoying love, enjoying your nature. And that's fine. And that's not anything less than realization, right? It's just a different flavor that the divine has made available, that you get a choice. You can be sugar or you can taste sugar, right? And most bhaktas, he's saying, most true lovers of God, there's no reason to merge. Let's stay together. Let's just hang out together forever, right? And Ramakrishna, sort of that statement, there are places in the ocean where the form of God never melts, right? Will always be there. There is another path, right? And this is going to be the path of knowledge. He says the path of knowledge, which is very difficult. You members of the Brahmo Samaj are not Gyanis. You are Bhaktas. The Gyani believes that Brahman alone is real and that this world is illusory as a dream. To him, I and you are illusory as a dream. God is our inner controller. Pray to him with a pure and guileless heart. Right? So pray to him with an unselfish heart that's not running any of its personal narratives. Right? That's what guileless is. Just not running any narratives. You're very trusting, very open, and pure, which means you have a very little me in mind in there. He will explain everything to you. Give up egotism, right? What is it to give up egotism? Stop going to the mind for your answers and go to silence for your answers. That would be one way of describing it. Instead of querying your mind, query silence and go inside deeply and sit there waiting until you know. Right? So if you have a pure and guileless heart, he will explain everything to you. Give up egotism and take refuge in him. Right? Take refuge. It's like give up. Give up the tension that you're existing in. Give up the fight that you're existing in. Give up the struggle that you're existing in. Give up the suffering and the pain that you're existing in. And take refuge. Right? Go within. Find this purpose of life. He will explain everything to you. Give up egotism and take refuge in him. You will realize everything. Okay, that's a sentence in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna to you. You will realize everything. So just keep going. Keep going. The Master sang, "Dwell, O mind, within yourself. Enter no other's home. If you but seek there, you will find all that you are searching for. God is the true philosopher's stone, who answers every prayer, lies hidden deep within your heart, the richest gem of all. How many precious pearls and precious stones are scattered all about the outer court that lies before the chamber of your heart." Right? So dwell, O mind, within yourself. Right? This is that idea. There is nothing outside of you that is necessary for realization. Right? For contentment, for a fulfillment of life. It does not come from outside in. The universe requires you in order to exist. Right? You don't require the universe. The universe requires you, as it were. So dwell, O mind, within yourself. Don't run out into the senses looking for pleasures and joys beyond yourself. Stay within. Stay within yourself. Enter no other home. Right? So don't go looking places you don't belong. Your nature is love and wisdom and being. Right? Don't go chasing after things that are not of your nature. If you but seek there, right? If you just go and look within, you will find everything that you are looking for. Wow. Everything. Everything that's lacking in your life right now, everything that is making you think you need to do this, that, or the other, or try this, that, or the other, all of that can be answered from within yourself. from within yourself. God, the true philosopher's stone, right? What does the philosopher's stone do? It turns anything into gold, right? Whatever it touches, it turns into gold. And so that's it. God, your divine nature is what turns you into a saint. It turns you into a golden human being, little by little, as you ripen, right? As your little self ripens into a preparation of letting go of itself so that it can be its true self. God is that true philosopher's stone who answers every prayer. So all knowledge lies within you. Every prayer is answered from within you, from this knowing God, from this touching the divine, who answers every prayer. So God, this philosopher's stone, lies hidden deep within your heart. So he's not out there. You don't have to go looking at all the different religions. You don't have to go reading all the different scriptures to make these decisions. Oh my God, where is he? What is he? What do I have to do? How do I find out? The way that you find out is sit down, be quiet, go inside and ask. Right? Lies hidden deep within your heart, the richest gem of all. And this is how we know that this is where we get our value from. We are valuable as human beings because we have this divine gem within us. Each one of us has this divine gem within. And that's why it's not okay to enslave one another. That's why it's not okay to treat somebody as a consumer or to call somebody a consumer, right? Because we have a value infinitely more than that. We are not, fodder for the rich or vice versa. We're human beings. And every one of us, because of this divine light within us, is worthwhile, is beautiful, is worth every effort of the divine to teach us and to train us and to bring us home, to bring us forward. How many pearls and precious stones are scattered all about the outer court that lies before the chamber of your heart. These are all the beautiful things about you that are not the one most precious gem, right? Your compassion, your smile, your immortality, your freedom, your your eternity. All of these things are things that you find along the wayside that are true about yourself, right? He continued, when you mix with people outside your samaj, right? So he's talking to the Brahmo Samaj, that group, their sangha. He says, when you mix with people outside of your samaj, love them all. Ah, there it is. When you go outside of your church, when you go outside of your religion, when you go outside of your neighborhood, when you go outside of your comfort zone, love them all. We love everyone. That is our striving. When in their company, be one of them. Wow, that gets even deeper. When you're in the company of people that are not like you, be one of them. Fit in with them, right? That's the thing I say for Vedantins, ours is to listen, right? That's the beauty. Ours is to listen. I think the best way in this modern world that you can show someone you love them is to listen to them, because there ain't nobody listening out there, right? Everybody is trying to put up their vlog and their their podcast, right? So we listen and we mix with them. We be like them. Don't harbor malice toward them, right? Don't judge them. Don't turn up your nose in hatred and say, oh, this man believes in God with form and not in the formless God. That man believes in the formless God and not the God with form. Oh, that man is a Christian. Ooh, that one's a Hindu. Oh, this one's a Muslim. It is God alone who makes people see things in different ways. Know that people have different natures. Realize this and mix with them as much as you can and love all. But enter your own inner chamber to enjoy peace and bliss. Right? That is, I think, one of the most poignant little paragraphs that I've read for this day and age. Just point by point, love, 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 love. It doesn't matter how different they are. It doesn't matter how fallen they are. It doesn't matter how silly they are. It doesn't matter how intense they are, right? Love them, right? And be wise in that loving, right? Lighting the lamp of knowledge in the chamber of your heart, behold the face of the mother, Brahman's embodiment. You can see your true self only within your own chamber. The cowherds take the cows to graze in the pasture. There the cattle mix. They all form one herd. But on returning to their sheds in the evening, they are separated. Then each stays by itself in its own stall. Therefore I say, dwell by yourself in your own chamber. It was 10 o'clock in the evening. The master got into the carriage to return to Dakshineshwar. One or two attending devotees got in with him. The carriage stood under a tree in deep darkness. Beni Paul wanted to send some sweets and other food with Ramakrishna for Ramlal, the master's nephew. Beni Paul: Sir, Ramlal was not here this evening. With your permission, I should like to send some sweets for him by your attendance. The master, with great anxiety: Oh, Beni Paul! Oh, sir, please don't send these things with me. That will do me harm. It is never possible for me to lay up anything. I hope you won't mind. Beni Paul: As you please, sir. Please give me your blessing. Master: Oh, we've been very happy today. You see, he alone is a true man who has made money his servant. But those who do not know the use of money are not men, even though they have human forms. They may have human bodies, but they behave like animals. You are blessed indeed. You have made so many devotees happy today. Right? So this is quite interesting here. He can't lay up anything because he's a monk. That's the teachings for monks, that they are not to lay up for the morrow. Right? They stay in the moment as much as possible and to rely on God and God alone. And it's not that having a savings doesn't, it's true that that's God's savings and God gave you that savings and it is God. But if you have a big savings, it's hard to see God through it. you start taking comfort in the fact that it's a big savings. Oh, I'm going to be okay. Not because God is alive and loves me, but because I've got a lot of money and can pay my bills. Right? And so the divine does not want us stuck at that level. He wants expansive, open hearts and open minds that aren't limited by measurements of money, right? Or measurements of anything in this world, measurements of time, measurements of money, measurements of size, measurements of virtue. None of the God is beyond all of that, shining the divine light. Oh. And let's see how true he is to his own convictions, that being a monk, he can't lay up. And here you can see this is Ramakrishna just riding that razor's edge. He won't even take a tray for someone else. That's still a laying up, it's taking, delivering it. And in that, he still speaks his truth. No, no, please don't make me take it, because if I do, it's going to cause me trouble, because and so he's true to his nature. He doesn't he doesn't bow to peer pressure, right? And so Beni Paul doesn't press him, right? So you see the respect that Beni Paul had for him. Oh yes, of course, Maharaj. Definitely don't take it. All right. Monday, October 20th, 1884. 2 days after the worship of Kali, the Marwaris of the Burra Bazaar section of Calcutta were celebrating the Annakuta festival. Sri Ramakrishna had been invited by the Marwari devotees to the ceremony at 12 Malik Street. It was the second day of the bright fortnight of the moon. The festival connected with the worship of Kali, known as the Festival of Light, was still going on at Burra Bazaar. About 3 o'clock in the afternoon, M and the younger Gopal came to Burra Bazaar. M, who had in his hand a bundle of cloth that he had purchased for Sri Ramakrishna. Malik Street was jammed with people, bullock carts and carriages. As M and Gopal approached 12 Malik Street, they noticed Sri Ramakrishna in a carriage, which could hardly move because of the jam. Baburam and Ram Chakravarti were with the master. He smiled at M and Gopal. Sri Ramakrishna alighted from the carriage. With Baburam, he proceeded on foot to the house of his host, M leading the way. They saw the courtyard of the house filled with big bales of cloth which were being loaded onto bullock carts for shipment. The Marwari host greeted the master and led him onto the third floor of the house. A painting of Kali hung on the wall. Sri Ramakrishna bowed before it. He sat down and became engaged in conversation with the devotees. One of the Marwaris began to stroke his feet. The master asked him to stop. After reflecting a minute, he said, "All right, you can stroke them a little." His words were full of compassion. So to us, that sometimes in the West anyway, it's weird. Like, why is somebody rubbing his feet? you know, and what is this whole scenario? Stop. Oh, okay, you can go ahead and do it. Right. Well, of course we know it. He's an illumined soul, and so it's a great blessing to do selfless service for him. And so you have this Marwari devotee probably thinking that, So there's a touch of impurity because he's not doing selfless service. He's thinking about what he's going to get by serving Ramakrishna. And so that's a little problematic. It probably caused a little bit of discomfort in Ramakrishna when he was rubbing his feet. And so he asks him to stop. And then I imagine in my mind that he remembers this paragraph that he just got finished teaching us. Go out there, be like them, and love them. Right? And so he's feeling that inside. He's like, oh, okay, all right, yeah, you go ahead. You can rub my feet. Right? And so he lets him do it, even though it's not very comfortable for him. So you're getting selfless service on the part of God and on the part of the devotee together. See?
Excuse me, Swamiji.
Yes.
Sometimes excuse me for saying this, but
No?
sometimes I feel that, even loving God has some kind of transactional relationship. Is that true?
Uh, not in truth, no. It's not necessary, and our effort is to have as little of that in it as possible. And that's why it's important, that idea that we are already that. So why in some places in our development, as we grow as a spiritual seeker, we will think that we're trying to attain God or that we're trying to attain realization, right? Because that's our perspective in our ignorance. And so, yes, it's very hard for us to root out that little bit of motive that I'm going to get realization, or I'm going to get God vision, or I'm going to see the beloved. And so we see it as transactional when we're in the ego state. But when we're there, we realize that we've always been there, and that it was merely a thought construct that made us think that we were a body and a mind. It was just a thought construct, a narrative that gave us a history and a story of karma and held us responsible for it. And so we drop that misnomer, but that's all that's changed. We've always been as we are. And so we really don't attain anything when we realize God. We basically just consciously, in awareness, return to ourself with no limiting story of mind to identify with. Does that make any sense, Gita?
Yes, very much. Thank you so much.
Sure. Master to M. What about your school? M. Oh, well, today is a holiday, sir. Master, smiling. Well, tomorrow there will be a musical recital of the Chandi at Adar's house. The host sent a pundit to Sri Ramakrishna. He saluted the master and took a seat. Soon they were engaged in conversation. They talked about spiritual things. Master, God incarnates himself for the bhakta, for the devotee, and not for the jnani, right? Because the jnani is not going to believe in him. The jnani is like, you're an illusion. You're an illusion of God incarnate, right? So God incarnates himself for the bhakta, for the person who loves God and has that kind of relationship with him or her or that, but not for the jnani, pandit. Quoting scripture, I incarnate myself in every age for the protection of the good, for the destruction of the wicked, and for the establishment of dharma. God becomes man, first for the joy of the bhakta, and secondly for the destruction of the wicked. The jnani has no desire. Master, smiling, but I have not got rid of all desires. I have the desire for the love of God. The pundit's son entered the room. He saluted the master and took a seat. Master to the pundit. Well, what is bhava and what is bhakti? Pundit. Meditation on God mellows the mind. This mellowness is called bhava. It is like the thawing of ice when the sun rises. Master. Well, what is prema? The pundit and the Sri Ramakrishna were talking in Hindustani. The former gave some sort of explanation of prema. Master to the pundit. No, 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 no. That is not the meaning. Prema means such love for God that it makes a man forget the world and also his body, which is so dear to him. Chaitanya Deva had prema, right? So what a glorious state that would be. Just to have love for God so deep that you forget all of your vice. you literally you set it down, forgot where you put it, you never go look for it again. That's the way to realize God right there, have this prema. And that's why we practice. It is love itself that we are getting to know, that we are drawing close to. And if it's love itself, if love itself is your partner, that's going to be a beautiful, beautiful undertaking right there. Right? And eventually it will allow you to forget your body, forget your mind, forget your story. Right? And what is it that has caused you to forget all of those things that were unreal or were caused by ignorance? It is your divine beloved, right? It is love itself. So he says, yes, the world and also his body, which is so dear to him. Chaitanya Deva had prema. Pundit, yes, sir, one behaves like a drunkard. Master, some people develop bhakti and others do not. How do you explain that, sir? Pundit, there is no partiality in God. He is the wish-fulfilling tree. Whatever a man asks of God, he gets, but he must go near the tree to ask the boon. The pundit said all of this in Hindustani. The master explained it to M in Bengali. Master, sir, please describe samadhi to us. Pundit, there are two kinds of samadhi, savikalpa and nirvikalpa. In nirvikalpa samadhi, the functioning of the mind stops altogether. Absolute silence. Right? Absolute silence. Why? Because in that samadhi, there is no me and mine. And me and mine is what disturbs the mind. Me and mine is what creates the universe. Right? Me and mine is what creates the veil. So there are two kinds of samadhi, sarvikalpa and nirvikalpa, or savikalpa and nirvikalpa. In nirvikalpa samadhi, the functioning of the mind stops altogether. Master, yes, the mind completely takes the form of reality. The distinction between the meditator and the object of meditation does not exist. There are two other kinds of samadhi, Chaitana and Jada. Narada and Sukadeva attained Chaitana samadhi. Isn't that true, sir? Pandit, yes, sir, that is so. Master, further, there are Unmana samadhi and Sthita samadhi. Isn't that true, sir? The pundit remained silent. He did not venture an opinion. Master, Well, sir, through the practice of japa and austerity, one can get occult powers, such as walking on the water of the Ganges. Isn't that true? Pundit, yes, one can, but a devotee doesn't want them. The conversation continued for some time. The pundit said he would visit the master at Dakshineshwar the next Ekadashi day. Master, your son is very nice. Pundit, well, revered sir, all of this is transitory. It is like the waves in a river. One goes down and another comes up. Master, you have substance in you. After a few minutes, the pundit saluted Sri Ramakrishna. He said, I shall have to perform my daily devotions. Please let me go. Master, oh, sit down. Sit down. The pundit sat down again. The conversation turned to Hatha Yoga. That's funny. I sort of had a funny experience like that when I first went to Dakshineshwar. Me and Philip, he and I had already, planned out our whole vacation and when we were going where and what we were going to see and all that. And so we went in. I think it was oh, the name's skipping me. But we went into the general secretary's office, and he says, "Oh, so you've come to India? Yeah, what will you do?" And we handed him our Excel spreadsheet with our whole trip on it, and he looks at it and he goes, and he starts tearing it in half, tearing it up into pieces, throws it into the trash can, and pulls out another piece of paper. And he says, so in the morning you shall, and he writes down this and this and this and this. And then he hands the paper to us, and it's our whole vacation, completely rewritten, completely replanned in it. And he told us that he would get us all the tickets and all of the arrangements. And it was, as a Westerner, you're never in a circumstance like that. That's just not how things are done here. And so I love this. The pundit stands up. Well, sir, I'm going to go do my practice now. Please excuse me. Sit down. You're not going anywhere. Sit down. I love that notion, just that surrender, and that's how you operate with no ego, right? There's none of this mealy mouthing around each other. You just talk directly, right? All right. So he said, I shall have to perform my daily devotions. Please let me go. Oh, sit down. Sit down. The pundit sits down again. The conversation turns to Hatha Yoga. The pundit discussed the subject with the master in Hindustani. Sri Ramakrishna said, yes, that is also a form of austerity. But the Hatha Yogi identifies himself with his body. His mind dwells on his body alone. The pundit took leave of the master, and Sri Ramakrishna conversed with the pundit's son. All right. I think we'll stop there. We'll pick up his conversation with the pundit's son next week. Let me turn off the recorder.